Just hold on 1 second, Nat.
And we're live
Take it
now.
away.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody to our July 21st meeting, and we will follow our agenda here. And starting with that, Alex, do we have any public comments?
We do not right now.
And Diane cannot be with us today. We appreciate her doing the minutes from last time. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes for our last meeting in June? No one has any comments. Would someone care to move to adopt the minutes?
Move to adopt.
Have a second?
Second from Jake. Alex is
Okay.
muted. He's trying to second too.
All right. Then all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We'll adopt the minutes. One of the things I wanted to double check on, we voted on the new members to be nominated to the mayor and commission. Unfortunately, the mayor and commission seems to have been really busy with other things going on, and they haven't gotten around to voting on that nomination yet. Alex, do you know, is there any indication we're going to be able to put this on their agenda?
Yeah, it will move to the August, September. So September is when it should be coming before them.
Hopefully in August, if we can at all.
Well, it's the August September cycle, so they'll be reaching out about then.
Okay, all right. See, I sent a message out to everybody, a copy of a memo from Mike Wharton. I see Mike's with us now. That just the announcement that we have the 71 acres added to Rock and Shoals. So that's been a closure and a wonderful opportunity, and to do some joint planning with the State Department of Natural Resources for the management of the site. Mike, have you got anything to add to that? You're on mute, by the way.
Just that we are extremely excited that after 2 years, we finally made it. So we're pretty happy.
Good work.
One of the other things that happened since our last meeting is that the MNC voted on the location for public art, and that will be near the Martin Luther King and Ruth Street area there along the new section of the Greenway. So there'll be public art, probably a sculpture of some type located there.
Do we have a timeline for that now?
What's that?
Is there a timeline for that?
I think they're going to be putting out the request for proposals soon, but I don't know the exact time. But within the next few months anyway. Let's see. So we have ordered the benches to commemorate Jerry Neesmith. We'll be, one thing, we're ordering 2 benches, and originally we thought we'd put them together, but Alec made a suggestion, which I think is a good one. And that is that we put one of the benches at Ben Burton Park, which is along the Greenway, and it's also within Jerry's District 6, and then put a second one on the new section of the Greenway off MLK, probably within view of that artwork that we were just talking about as a possibility. But
Yeah, and I'm going to try and share real quick and just kind of show you. It's very, very rough. this is our idea for Ben Burton, where you would come in Ben Burton, the bench, this would be what the bench is able to view. So it would be down the driveway across the bridge, and it would have a view somewhat similar to this. The bench would probably fall somewhere in this area, and it would have the view river to the left and all the way down the park. I think that'd be a nice spot, far enough out of the way if somebody needs to drive a vehicle across that for maintenance reasons, but kind of seeing the whole park. And then this right here is the new section. So somewhere in here, I believe, would be a good spot. This is where the art's going to be, this nice smiley face. So you get the idea that if the bench is over here on the left, somewhere kind of close up in here, you're able to see the creek, you're able to see possibly the river with leaf off, and you'd be able to kind of take in that artwork up on the hill. So those were the two ideas that we had as staff for the benches.
Any comment?
Can we get a field trip just to take a look as time approaches?
Sure, we can go out there sometime and
Yeah.
maybe meet at the two different places, just to make sure we maintain social distancing.
Yeah, I'd like to see where they are and what the view is.
Okay, well, we'll get with you to set that up. Yeah, Mac.
Yeah, I like them both. My only comment about the second one is that it's so close to the street. I wonder about road noise, and just a thought.
My comment
Go ahead,
is
Alex.
I think it's a great idea to put one of them in Jerry's district. I think that's really important.
I like
Hey,
that.
Carol, you have a comment? You're muted right now. There you go.
A comment. I was riding all down the Greenway today from College Station all the way down Sandy Creek. I've been doing that about once a week, but I'd seen this on your agenda, and for what it's worth, I just want to put this out that for the bench to be very summer friendly, it would be great if it wasn't out in the direct sun. In the winter, your trees are gone. But I know when my mother was living with me for a little bit here, to be able to go out and walk and have a place to stop is really important. But if it's in these summer months, the heat it's just something to keep in mind in placement all across the board, I would say, with other bikes, with other benches as well. I was looking at places on the Greenway today as I was riding.
Good point, Carol. Maybe you need to be on the field trip.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we cover that base. The alternative would be to have something with its own shade structure, but I think having it under a tree would be a great idea.
Well, also a kind of a cool, shady place that could be contemplative might be nice. Just a quieter place where Farrell Neesmith said she would sit and commune with him, and maybe a quieter, more overlooking the water or whatever in the shade might be better. And then one of the county's benches go in the strategic locations like the work of art.
Just as a reminder.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, just as a reminder, there is a management plan that's been approved for the site. So any alteration to the management plan would have to go through a different process because we do have that. However, the art site is out of the management plan. So if you put it within the footprint of the art area, that's outside our management plan. And the Audubon Society also has a restoration area that includes a bench. And theirs is over toward more toward the trestle area in that little flat area, and it would be looking kind of over that meadow. So that's another option that would be possible.
Yeah, and I think
Field trip.
Ultimately, it's going to be up to Leisure Services about where that will go and be maintained. But yeah, we'd like to be advisory in that placement. So Karen, will you organize a field trip after this meeting?
Yeah, sure. I will, maybe through Alex, or I'll put the email out and see how many people can go. Sure.
Okay,
Make it
sounds
early
good.
morning.
Yeah, yeah, true. Mac, what's your comment?
Yeah.
To be there.
Yep. One other thing, we can also plant trees and make the shade if that's what we want to do.
Very good point.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's see. One thing that's come up recently, and this has just happened within the past few weeks, is a tax allocation district proposal. And 3 of the 6 that have been suggested, recommended, border or include part of the Greenway system. And those are on your agenda here. The West Broad Hawthorne district would include parts of Beach Haven. The Newton Bridge Road would border on the extension of the Greenway Trail up the river above Sandy Creek. And East Downtown, North Oconee River incorporates the west side of the river. And of course, that includes part of the Greenway too. It's unclear to me right now what the relationship of this effort to the Greenway would be. It is a way of raising funds, and those funds have been raised for things such as parks and Greenway trails in other communities. So there may be some potential here there for that. But right now I'm a little shaky on what this thing actually means and looks like and what the implications are. Does anybody have a comment about that?
Yeah. Nat, can I show those photos or the kind of the superimposed real quick?
Please do. Thank you.
All right, so popping back into screen. So to kind of just, Nat put words, good words behind it, but this kind of shows some of the, I'm going to do an overlay for you. So tax allocation district number 1 is out at the mall, so no impact. Tax allocation district number 2, so we're looking right here at the Beach Haven area, right where we changed from West Broad to Atlanta Highway. So superimposing, this is the polygon that was shown to the mayor and commission from Joseph D'Angelo, our GIS officer for Clarke County. So you guys can see that this polygon doesn't touch Beach Haven, but it does include the Matthews Motors. So Nat and I talked, and after hearing kind of some questions, and I had some similar questions, I got to call them up, and these polygons are a very rough idea. It's an idea. Each parcel gets decided on by mayor and commission as to whether to include them or not. They have to be contiguous, and there are some rules set up by the state. 10% of the tax digest is a number that you have to kind of satisfy. So these are not set in stone. So seeing that Beach Haven's excluded, but Matthews is included, they weren't doing any kind of deed research or anything like that. So if the mayor and commission, which is who gets to make these decisions, if they get public input or input from this group, that it would be beneficial to include and support through TAD funds something like a park like Beach Haven or the trail once it goes through here, then this would be the time for them to get that input from you guys. So with that said, I'm going to pop over. So here's number 3. So we're up on the north end of Athens, and you guys can see this Newton Bridge. We've got some property over here on this side, and hopefully one day a trail that kind of goes all the way up to Holland. But you guys can see that there's, and right here is our normal town connector at the very bottom. So who knows, maybe this, maybe there's enough public input and they push it over to Commerce Road or something like that. And then we do include some of this nature center property or some of the original Greenway. The Brown Trail is the original Greenway. And then 4 and 5. So we've got downtown right here, Thomas, Broad, Dougherty. So popping in 4 and 5. 4 is this downtown one, and it does go down to probably the center line of Willow or to the edge of property at Willow Street currently, just outside of North Oconee River Park. So again, if public input wants these things to help support parks, maybe that shifts over and includes both sides of the river or includes the gun emplacement. Same thing up here. We're really just across the road from 5, but I did want to throw it on here just so you could see the proximity as the crow flies for it to Walker Park. And I'm using the Greenway master plan document map, so that's why it still says Trail Creek Park, but that is the Trail Creek Trail is brown and Walker Park is right here. So those are the superimposed pictures but the blue polygons, again, are a very rough, open to interpretation. That's the public input. If you go and give public input, you'll see that they're actually big circles, big like heat map circles over parts of town. And that's why they did the circles, is because it's kind of a rough idea. So there you go, Nat.
And the whole idea behind this is that these mapped sections would be a place where there'd be a focus for new development with the idea of raising the quality of life in the area. And of course, that raises the specter of gentrification, and that would need to be worked out in advance, really. But part of that quality of life can be open space and parks. And so I'm not sure the folks that put those maps together were fully aware of the extent of those conservation lands adjacent to those areas. Does anybody have any insight or comments about this? I think it's the kind of thing, I'm still getting educated about it, but we will spend a little more time trying to figure out how that relation might work and how the Greenway properties might benefit from it. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that that was under discussion and happening. Susie, you haven't been involved with that kind of thing before, have you, with the state?
Yes and no. I mean, I'm educated on it. That's part of the certification. But I know that at one point in time, there was the one that runs along Willow Street right behind the Classic Center. That one was pretty much set up originally back when they were trying to redevelop that property for Blue Heron. And Alex, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think when those are set up, they have to go before public and be publicly input, but it also has to be legislated. I believe those have to be legislated.
The legislative piece was completed some time ago. Local governments have to the state. And anyway, Athens-Clarke County passed by resolution the capacity of the mayor and commission to establish TAD several years ago, but we have not established a single TAD yet. So the advantage of the inclusion of Greenway properties within the TAD is that those funds that are allocated for public improvements can be allocated towards Greenway improvement projects, because ostensibly the whole purpose of the public investment is to create the incentive for private development nearby based on the public development. So if there's a plan for example, a live-work kind of environment like that which was proposed for the West Clocks development, and the city's match for that is providing the Greenway infrastructure via TAD funds, then that's kind of the whole purpose of, and that's just one small example. It could also be investing in utility infrastructure. But the advantage is that the funds can be spent on Greenway if the Greenway is located within the TAD boundaries. If it's not, then it can't be spent on the Greenway. The disadvantage is just making sure that the development that will, you know, ostensibly be drawn to the area by virtue of the public investment is that which is compatible with the Greenway's vision for development around it.
Good point.
I knew part of them had been set up. I just didn't know that they had all been set up. That's good, Laura. That's good. Some of those touch on some areas that are designated by the Department of Community Affairs as, here, Laura, what's the term I'm looking for? Disadvantaged areas that.
In fact, it is a requirement of TADs that the areas that where you establish them have to be considered, you know, in some terms blighted, in that development would not occur otherwise without the public investment, and that's what justifies the creation of the TAD. That's a legal requirement of any TAD's creation.
Right.
So Laura, it sounds like from what you've said that it would be to our advantage if those adjoining Greenway properties were included so that they would be seen as part of an economic asset to those to improving the neighborhoods. And
I guess it just depends on whether or not we have anticipated Greenway investments that we're hoping to fund there. If the whole purpose of the Greenway designation on the particular parcel is for conservation, then maybe less so, unless. But yeah, I don't think that there's a disadvantage necessarily in the inclusion of conservation areas, park areas, Greenway areas within a TAD, because it just, as long as there is adherence to the plan to, you know, to preserve them for the original intent. But it does make those properties eligible for the public investment that is the purpose of the TAD.
yeah, Mac.
Yeah, it seems like to me that our concept of connectors, that might be the where this might play a role, so that we could get from the what's now the TAD area actually to a Greenway or to a park.
Uh-huh.
But the funding would occur outside, I guess, the Greenway, but it would be to connect to the Greenway. I don't, well.
Uh-huh.
So, I guess the point is that, you know, trails, construction of trails is an infrastructure component that could be identified as a project to be funded by a TAD, as long as where those trails were constructed were within the TAD. It is all types of public investment that might be anticipated to turn around private interest in the larger TAD area for reinvestment. So certainly Greenways would qualify for that.
Now, Laura, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think a TAD's been used anywhere in Northeast Georgia, to the best of my knowledge, not the 12 counties I worked with.
You know, I was reading up on that for Atlanta, and the Beltline was, much of it was paid for by.
Right, Atlanta's used it multiple times. Atlantic Station is one of the Beltline, another. There are 2, 3 more that they've used it for, but to the best of my knowledge, we haven't used it out here in Northeast Georgia.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak for surrounding counties. I would guess that Athens was probably the first local government within the Northeast Georgia district that even approved them as a tool. So that's just a guess, though. I don't know. And we certainly haven't established one yet. So,
Karen, you have a comment? Oh, you're on mute, Karen. You're muted.
I would be very cautious about development in an area that someone would consider blighted, another one might consider it's a perfectly fine home, given the Linen Town story and history. So that's not necessarily message to Alex because he can't do anything about it, but that's a concern. Here goes Jennifer.
Alex, when you showed us the overlay maps a few minutes ago, and I'm not asking you to run through those again, but my recollection is that those they didn't touch the Greenway in a lot of places. They were adjacent to the Greenway, but the Greenway did not run through the blue area. Isn't that?
So, yeah, but again, those shapes, those polygons are a rough draft, a very rough draft that mayor and commissioner seeking public input on, and that's what I would like to convey to you all, that those are not firm shapes. Those shapes are not set in stone. They are, if you go to the public input for TADS right now on our webpage, ACC's webpage, you will see a bubble that touches Ben Burton Park. It's huge. So the idea is that right now they want to know, mayor and commission want to know, is there any place you want included in this, and also what would the goal that the public wants for the funding to be? So if public says, hey, we really want to have a trail, or want this trail through here to help, then they can add to the polygon where the trail will be, or where the trail is. Those are not set in stone by any measure.
Yeah, and Alex, I think that's that's the message here, is that we need to educate ourselves. I think some of us, maybe the planning committee needs to look at this, and we can come back next month with more of a strategy about, do we want Greenway areas? Should we be actively trying to include them, or actively trying to not include them?
Okay.
Yeah, and I will say that most of the lines, especially in that district right around Beach Haven, those are planned trails, unfunded at this point. So it would be, we've already kind of decided that that's where we want a trail. So kind of speaking to nobody's telling us where to put the trail. We've already chosen that it should go through there, and let's include it so that connector, that portion gets covered by the TAD. Right now I'm sharing, this is again from the ACC website for the public input on TADs, and you guys can see that they're not using those polygons, they're just using a big circle, because it's all very preliminary right now.
Well, one place it seems to me we certainly could use some funding help is the segment of the Greenway between North Avenue and Dudley Park, where we don't have the funds to build our trail. Any place we could get some public funding to help build that trail to connect between North Avenue and Dudley Park would seem to be it'd be great to get some public money into that.
It would, Alex, that was included in T-Splosh 18. And so money was provided. The trouble is we got cut back, so we don't have enough money.
Right.
And so we need to, make sure we finish that off.
The beauty of the TAD is it allows you to go into a blighted property like the West-Clarke's and let a developer go in there and redevelop it. It's really not necessarily for new development. It's really more geared toward redevelopment for things that are really needing infrastructure.
Mac, what do you have?
Yeah, we've been talking about the three TADs that are adjacent to existing Greenway things, but it looked to me as that there were opportunities with some of the other examples that Alex shared with us, that we would be interested in them in the future, saying, okay, this is a place where it is part of our long-term Greenway plan, and even though we don't there's not one there right now, we would like to have it there. And so it could be part of a TAD. I was looking in particular at it's number 6 circle, which is out my way. There's several things that could be connected up to. Foremost would be the trail. But anyhow, that's all.
All right. So the bottom line is there's a lot for us to educate ourselves over. And Susie, if you would take the lead with your committee on that, and we'll work with you.
I put it on our agenda.
Yeah.
And we tried to meet the other week, but we didn't quite get there. But we'll meet again next month. We designated the first Tuesday as our meeting. So that would be August the 4th. So Alex, if you put that one on your calendar and we can discuss that one a little further.
Good. Okay, unless there's any other comment, I want to move on. And the next item here is I just noticed the other day that Google Maps now includes the aerials, include the new sections of the Greenway and some of the sections of the Firefly Trail. Of course, it's under construction too. But most of the new parts of the Greenway are now visible on Google Maps.
Ooh.
Yeah, I did that in response to a question on the Facebook group. Well, I meant to do it. I willed it to happen and it happened. So I'm going to interpret that as I did it.
There you go. Spiritual power. Well, we don't have a treasurer with us today. I don't think Ms. Little is here. So, well, we'll get that next month. Let's see. Committee reports, communication and outreach. Anything new, Jake?
Not a lot. We're still trying to pump up our social media presence, posting things to Facebook and Instagram. We would like to solicit from all of you who are regular Greenway goers, any photos and video. Next time you're on the Greenway, take photos, videos, send them to me so that I can post them on the Facebook page and Instagram. Carol's here to talk about Athens in Motion when we get to it. The Friends group is, I think, thinking about meeting sometime soon. They really, COVID really put a hitch in all of their plans. And other than that, it does seem like a really good time to, it occurred to me to have, we'll talk about this in our communications meeting next week, but it occurred to me that it would be good to, one thing we could do is emphasize the Greenway, and people already know it, but as an option that is safe, includes social distancing as an alternative activity for families to what they might be used to doing, going to movie theaters, going bowling, going to restaurants, all that sort of stuff, kind of out of the picture. So I'm sort of half formulated this idea of having like a series of posts that, restaurants and bars closed, head out on the Greenway, that sort of thing. So we can talk about that in our meeting, which is next week. That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll be filling in for Mark when we get to planning.
Okay, we're at planning. Oh, for Mark, BJ. Yes, Mac.
Yeah, just a side comment on what Jake just said. You can't go anywhere, go to the Greenway. I guess my sense is that parking's been pretty much filling up at Sandy Creek Nature Center, and that might be something that we, I don't know, might want to get peripherally involved with in the future.
Expanding the parking?
Parking at Greenway trailheads.
Yeah.
Let's see, Susie, you said you haven't met since our last meeting, so do you have anything for
No,
planning?
we did not. I do have a couple of comments. The construction of the nature playscape at Sandy Creek Nature Center is well underway. They've begun to move earth, and actually you can see some progress there. So that's really good news. The funding for the restroom has been received from Riverview, and it is available. Alex, I'm not sure where we stand with the plans to begin construction of that. Did we ever get approval there?
We're having to consult with Central Services on that one. Again, that's the big deal with it being part of an existing facility. They've been having to also do a lot of stuff like cleaning buildings after positive coronavirus tests.
Gotcha.
So they got a lot on their plate. But we have talked about it. When Tommy's with Leisure Services, were out there for the update about the playscape. We talked about it, and so we've got our planning. We just kind of have to get a couple details from Central Services. So
Okay. Okay.
definitely
Well,
on a front burner.
Money's in the bank.
Yeah.
So that's great. We did participate in the wayfinding. I don't know, Alex, if you're going to update on that or not. I won't steal your thunder, but the wayfinding signage looks good. I was really impressed with it. And there was some thought that maybe Riverview might be willing to, that we might go to Riverview and ask for some funding for that, or the RTP program. Either one of those two might be sources for wayfinding signage. And now that things are looking really nice right there at Oconee Street or Lexington Road, whichever you want to call it, at the racetrack, I think the transition between Firefly and the Greenway there could certainly, that's one place that would be really helpful. So I know the logo of both the Greenway and Firefly are indicated on those wayfinding signs, which I was most pleased with. So you can go ahead, and I won't steal all your thunder. But that's pretty much what I have at this point in time.
Karen, anything on natural resources? Did we lose Karen? Okay, well,
Maybe so.
moving right along.
Well, just a quick comment, and Mike will talk about it probably, but that acquisition of the property adjacent to Rock and Shoals is going to offer, I think, the Nature Committee some opportunity to provide some input in the future. So.
Okay, moving on. Alex, excuse me, for Leisure Services.
So we are, So we're operating. We're doing the best we can to follow procedures, follow guidelines, keep up with all the extra use that we've got going on. People are using the trails. Like you said, the parking lots are full all up and down the system. Lots of people out, lots of people following rules. We're also just sheer number of people. It's crazy. It's good. But we are having to pick up trash more often out of the trash cans. We are having to answer a lot more questions because people are very interested about it. So we're spending more time on the phone when people call. So we're staying very, very busy, but also making sure that we try and keep staff safe. We are going to kind of tiptoe back into maybe setting up some volunteer days. Right now, Clarke County staff is actually seeing an uptick in people who are feeling sick. So we're kind of trying to figure out, are we moving forward with new things, or are we kind of staying where we are, or are we moving back into a little bit more of a guarded position? So right now we're trying to talk through some of that. But anyway, so that's what we're working with. Other than just trying to do business as normal, I do have the presentation, so I'm just going to real quick share what Daniel showed, only just to let people kind of see. So this is our, and again, park planning. Daniel Sizemore has put a lot of work into this. You guys can see our typical series of signs and some examples that we've kind of looked at. So Greenville and I think this is Texas, but so right here, this is what I wanted to show you. So you guys can see, this is our idea for wayfinding. And we recorded the presentation. We can share the presentation. This is we want it to be a standard, though the colors and though the logo will change between whichever trail you're on. And, you know, down the road, if we ever add like the Athens line or something like that, then all we have to do is pivot, keep the same format, keep the same dimensions of metal and everything, and then change colors. So that's what we've got going on. Right here at the bottom in this green bar is a missing Athens-Clarke County Leisure Services logo. So that's not really blank. But yeah, so they look great. We're doing big call outs for people as they fly by on their bicycle. And then if you stop and want to read more, then you can kind of read that finer print. We've got our limit up to 6 little universal icons. We like using those because there are people, a lot of people, whether they live here or whether they come here for school, that English is not their primary language. So pictographs kind of help translate some stuff there. And then there's your scale. So you guys can kind of see that they're off the trail, but pretty readable. You know, we wanted to get them far enough out to where the landscape crews, when they're mowing, they've got enough gap here to run a 60-inch cutter through there. So there's the Greenway version. Good. So there you go. Other than that, we're really just trying to, most of our staff time has been just kind of trying to ease back into operations. The Firefly out in Winterville is coming along. It's looking really good. We're actually having a hard time keeping people off of it because it's just not safe to have people on it right now. And the contractor that's going to be working on phase 2 of Firefly, they've been awarded. They know what they need to do. So that should be breaking ground sometime somewhat soon. And then all the Dudley Park work, it's kind of coming along. So we should start to see some work. The trestle stuff is kind of already, they're doing a lot of testing. They're trying to figure out a lot of stuff with how all the ground is going to work there. And there's a final review of what the architecture is going to look like. And then for the Dudley Park improvements, the restroom building and the pavilion, teaching pavilion, it's been a couple weeks, but we did have a somewhat final, like a 90% final set of plans to review. So there were some tweaks, some little things we wanted to change, but it's going to look really good when that's up and running. So, that is our report.
See, Alex, at our last meeting, I was going over the minutes, and one of the things that kind of fell through the cracks, there was a request embedded in there from Leisure Services for about $3,000 worth of work and materials. Remember that?
Help me in regards to what?
Rose West was talking about orientation. I just dropped all my papers here. Let's see if I can find the reference.
Okay. We can come back to that if Mike wants to do his thing, and I'll look at the minutes from last.
Here, hang on a second. I have it right here.
Okay.
Yes, for trail counters at $2,000 and continue funding for trail ambassadors at $1,000. Is that still valid?
Yeah, we would like that. So we can send over to you guys the details on what we need ordered, and we'll work with Derek to get it paid.
All right, let's, if people are comfortable with it, let's, just in terms of a time frame, get doing that with our executive committee, since they'll be meeting next. And if everyone's okay with it, the executive committee will approve that or not.
Yeah. I had just one update question for Alex. At the last meeting, you reported that there were legal documents dealing with the easement from the cemetery that were being reviewed by our lawyers. That was a month ago. What's going on at this point?
I commend the attorney's office in Clarke County. They have been very, very busy dealing with mask laws, mask ordinances, all this kind of stuff. I honestly haven't heard any kind of update. And I've been asking other, we've been working on other things too. So I don't know where it is to
Well,
answer you.
That's all I wanted to know, is whether you had heard
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, nothing yet. All the questions that we had for operations and all the questions from leisure services, I think were all answered the last I had. So I want to say that we're really at the final version of amendments from both sides now.
Good.
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, relative to what Alex can do. Alex, I think I heard that you have additional duties relative to COVID-19, and if that's so, I think it might be neat to share that briefly.
Okay. So when all this started, I got tasked by the emergency manager for the county, JW. He's our interim right now, and have been just helping however possible. So 3 days a week, I've been reporting to the fire department headquarters and kind of shuffling PPE around, trying to deal with PPE needs, logistics for the entire county response, and yeah, just been the gopher. Been trying to figure out all the weird questions for him, because Clarke County's one that has a emergency management designee within the fire department. Doesn't really have a whole staff. So yeah, so I've been that staff. I've been part of that staff. So.
Let's see, moving on to planning. Jake, did you say you were going to speak for Mark? Hello, Jake.
Yes. So Mark sent some information about a development along Little Oak Street that is planned, that has been planning for a while, and has had input from Commissioner Mariah Parker to have inclusionary zoning. So I forwarded that to the listserv. I don't know if we want to talk through it now or reserve it for later. I don't know when. I didn't see when it was actually going to go in front or move to the mayor and commission or whatever. But people can take a look at it if they want. That's my terrible Mark impression.
Is it adjacent to the Greenway somewhere?
Adjacent to the Firefly Trail and close to the Dudley Park. So it's Little Oak Street is the street that runs right along the Firefly Trail, the segment that exists. So it looks very thoughtful. I just glanced through it during the meeting. So I guess people can take a look, and if we need to submit some sort of letter, we can figure that out later. But yeah, he apologized for not getting it to us sooner.
Okay. Carol, do you have anything on Athens in motion? We still have Carol?
Carol, you're muted.
Hey, Carol, you're on mute.
Okay, got it. Okay, back, all right, here we are. Okay, so we have a meeting next week. One of the things that we've been doing is we're actually been looking at the designs for various sidewalk projects that are coming through with the T-Plus money. And so last month we saw some design options for Cherokee Road over on the east side by Lowe's. And you guys are hearing me okay, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we're going to be looking at something for Jefferson River Road coming up, and Barber Street, then River, I'm trying to pull up the things while I'm talking to you here, River Bend Road, and also Barber Street. So those, we're going to be looking at those in the next couple of weeks. So for example, with the Cherokee one, we had 3 options of sidewalk plans to look at, and then we looked at, some multi-use trails over there as well, because it fit into a certain category to be analyzed for complete streets, and that's multi-use trails. But the expense right now is such that it would use so much of the budget for sidewalks that we recommended one of the sort of more traditional sidewalks there. So that's what we're doing there. We're also going to continue to work on right now. I'm trying to put together a process so that we can keep our Athens in Motion plan a living document. So if people come, people, organizations, the community, staff have ideas for other streets that need to be included in it, what process would we use for putting other streets for sidewalks or bike lanes in there? And so we're trying to create that process as well. So, you know, we're just trying our best as well to recover in this new and function in this new COVID world. So I think that's about it for what we're working on right now. We are having an Ollie presentation. Everyone seems to have one of those, though. So we're working our way through some different things.
Okay. Mike, I think I skipped over you. Did I?
You did, but that's okay.
Well,
I was going to come back.
Last but not least.
A couple of things. First, thank you for the land restoration funds that were voted in last meeting. Nat, to answer your question that I was on another Zoom call, but to answer your question, yes, it cut out. So I did not know that it actually got approved until I read the minutes. So I do greatly appreciate your support in that effort. And if you need to know where to send the check and how to address the letter so it makes it into the correct account, I will be glad to work with whoever you need me to do that. But thank you very much.
And you're referencing the $8,000 that we approved last time for recovery. And
yes, yes, thank you. We have been using money to continue to attack the invasive plants at Dudley and MLK in preparation of the GOST grant and some other activities that we're doing there. We haven't heard anything about the GOST grant, so I think there was a little bit of unrealistic expectation on the part of the state on how fast they would receive the funding. So just as a quick reminder, the state at the state level, their allocation, their folks have to, in their budget group in the legislature, has to allocate the money, has to first find out how much tax money was actually raised, then they have to allocate it to the trust fund, and then we can enter into the agreement for the GOST grant. So I can only imagine how long it takes the state finance group to come at the legislative level to come up with those final figures. So I'm not holding my breath. We won't see anything really until August or even early September on that grant. So we haven't stopped trying to make sure we take advantage of what we can with the season to continue to treat in those areas and have them a little bit more restoration ready when the time comes. So that's what we've been doing there. As I mentioned, you mentioned, Nat, the Rock and Shoals acquisition of 71 acres. We're really excited. We are working with the state currently on the development of the conservation easement on the site. That will be applied to the 71 acres, and as part of that, to come up with a management plan for the entire site as we go forward. We're also looking at we've been supporting the Summer-wide Youth Conservation Corps through ALT. So we provided funding for that program. They've been working on the North Oconee River Greenway. North Oconee River Park East section. So if you haven't had a chance to go around the Agar Plaza and kind of down in that direction and see what they've been able to do the last 6 weeks, we're pretty excited for the progress that they have made, and they've learned a lot in doing that. So we're happy that we were able to hold them over. They do have a NIFWIF, National Fish and Wildlife Service grant for next summer. I believe they're going out to Alex's Way at Southeast Clarke Park, but they had nothing for this summer, so we were glad to be able to hold them over and keep them moving and keep the young people focused as well. So that was a pretty good program there. Audubon grant at Martin Luther King. There's on the news section of the Greenway. One of the areas that's right close to the trestle, the railroad trestle at the corner of North Avenue and MLK, is a restoration site, so that we are working with the Audubon to transform that one into a bird and pollinator meadow. It includes an area of reflection and a bench, and that's also where the Goss Grant's going to put nesting boxes in that same area. So we're augmenting what they're doing, and work began this past Saturday. We on the restoration end of it. So I'm kind of excited. We're moving from killing stuff to planting stuff, and that's kind of a fun place to be. A lot more fun for me, and I've been impatiently waiting for this for a couple of years. So we were able to work with them to begin to put chips down in that area. And they have another work day coming up on Saturday. They're going to hopefully finish up with that same project. That's in preparation for being able to do plug planting in the fall, along about October or November. Keeping socially distanced and safe in the process. What better place to be than outdoors? We're also seeing some good results from our overseeding. We did a little bit of overseeding in that MLK site up on the hillside and in between Mr. DeShields, the private land, and the trail on the south side of that area of that private property. And we did some overplanting in the spring, about 2 acres there, and we've seen some good results. We kind of, being impatient, we went ahead and tried this to see how it would work. And fortunately, we haven't been scolded too badly by the invasive plants that came up despite our efforts. So we're kind of excited to see that begin to transform. And I can't wait to see how this is going to pan out over the next 2 or 3 years. The last thing is we did get approval, and we're finally at a point where we're going to be installing the Athens' first trash trap. It is a pilot project that we're working on, and it will be in the stream that is there at the corner of Ruth Drive and Martin Luther King, again in that same new expansion area of the Greenway in that stream there. The banks are in terrible condition, but we're going right below the overpass of where the creek comes under the road there. We're going to install a trash trap and we're working with about 20 different folks, UGA grounds, UGA researchers, our own ACC folks, and we're going to be analyzing the effectiveness of these traps. Just a quick overview. Well, the idea is we've seen these on large streams, and they cost literally multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars and require crews and heavy equipment to manage. And we felt like that was not a feasible thing for a community our size. So we wanted to do some piloting on smaller watersheds earlier in the system. So we picked 2 sites. We have actually funding for trash traps in both sites. This is one of them. And the concept is, can we make them small enough to be and yet effective enough that we can put them in these small water basins, small scale water basins, empty them out with one person on a routine basis, and actually have an impact on trash and plastic in our aquatic systems. So that we'll be installing that on Thursday morning. So you'll get a chance to go down on your field trip when you go look for the bench, and you can actually go look at it. It sounds a lot more impressive than when you see it, but when you see it in action, it could be pretty impressive for what it catches. So we're real happy with that coming along. That is being donated for a year to Athens-Clarke County. We are essentially being allowed to use it for a year at no cost. The only requirement that was placed on us is we take pictures, we help monitor the trash, and we call them first if something breaks, which I told them that was a great deal right there. So, and then at the end of that period of time, we have the option of either purchasing it for a reduced price, or they'll take it out at the end of that 1 year. The second place we have one that is funded as soon as Goss goes through is there in Dudley Park. There's a small stream right at the bottom of Poplar Street that is at the corner of Poplar and Mulberry, and that's another place where we'll put a second trash trap with a different design, and we'll be able to compare the two then at that point. And that's it for us from here.
A lot going on. Yes, Karen. You're on mute, Karen.
What does a trash trap look like?
You can actually go online and Google trash traps, and there's all kinds of different designs. The ones on the coast are pretty amazing. They actually have current-driven belts that then take the trash and push it up into a big catch area, and then they have these winches on barges that come out and pick these structures up and put them on the barge and then put them back in. Gainesville has one on one of its streams going into Lake Lanier. So that it's really a little cage. They have booms out, kind of like you see with oil, where they're getting skimming oil off the surface, and it's in a V, so it faces upstream. The open part of the V faces up, and it comes back to the trash trap at the back, and as the water, these things float through, it gets caught up in that. Of course, what we were also looking at is making sure we don't hinder wildlife traveling up the stream. Mostly the turtles, but they're pretty good at getting over most obstacles. So there's some things, and there should be a way for them to get around. But yeah, the big ones are really impressive if you go watch them in action.
What's the brand? What's the company we're using?
This one's Stormwater Systems is the company. So you can go look up Stormwater Systems online and see what theirs are. This one's called the Bandit. So that's the new. And actually, we were kind of the catalyst, I guess. At the end of the day, they had been having a lot of people tell them that they needed to have a smaller version of their stuff. And when we approached them about a year and a half ago and really began to engage them, and we pulled in some UGA professors, Jay Shelton, who helped take down the dam out at UGA at Whitehall, and Todd Rasmussen, and Rhett
Butler.
Yes.
Jackson.
Jackson. Butler was the first one. Rhett Jackson. It's like, no, it's not Butler. Rhett Jackson. Those three also worked with Stormwater Systems, and that's what got them excited. And I think that's what finally got them to actually sit down and fabricate the first one. So we were kind of glad to be able to push that one forward, and we'll see how they work.
Okay, moving right along. I think we lost Bruno, but they do have their proposed Upper Oconee Watershed Network Science and Policy Summit coming up in September on the 25th. So we'll look forward to that. And Scott, you got anything on Bike Athens?
Not much to report. We're still closed to the public. We're doing appointments only here at the shop. One thing that we are doing, in light of all the COVID stuff, the library still seems like they're closed. So one of the things that we've done today, I just got them back from Belgium, is we have applications for mail-in ballots if people want to stop by and pick one up. They don't have to print one out. Some people don't have printers, and they can drop them off downtown. That's all I got.
Any other comments in general? If not, really appreciate everyone's patience. Our next meeting is August 18th, and you'll be hearing from Karen about arrangements for a field trip.
Yeah, let me talk to Alex about that, because he knows the sites, and you may have to just give us a map.
Okay. Well, that's all I have. Unless anyone has anything else, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.